Greetings, members of the Midnyte Society. Get cozy as we venture into the shadows and explore the creepiest corners of Reddit. If the dark, creepy, and disturbing side of the internet is your thing, you are in the right place. So make sure to subscribe to the Midnyte Society and ring the bell to stay updated. Now, let the spooky stories begin.
What is this? So, I've just moved into this house with my husband almost a month ago. Nothing really started happening that caused any concern for the either of us, until recently this past week. To start, on Monday, I heard what sounded to be light tapping against the wall and meowing. Logically speaking, I thought maybe it was just the cold that caused the tapping and that the meowing came from outside, since there was a shed next to the house. That is, until I actually thought about it. The meowing sounded like it was in our bedroom. In the middle of the night. On Tuesday, I get the most uncomfortable feeling of being watched, even though I'm alone and my husband is at work. The feeling of even being chased up the stairs. At night, it was like something had hit the trash bag downstairs, and then it sounded like something running up the stairs. On Wednesday, I woke up at night from a horribly jarring noise. It sounded like someone was slamming the edge of a credit card on my bathroom counter, which is just outside my bedroom door. This continues for like 30 to 40 minutes, until it just stops. I peek into the hallway, just to make sure I'm not hearing things, and possibly seeing things. After that, the sound of something heavy fell into that trash can and started rummaging around. And today, Thursday, I experienced one of the creepiest things that has happened so far. But thankfully I now know I'm at least not going crazy. My husband and I were downstairs making breakfast and I was telling him about what happened last night. While we were talking, we both went quiet and I looked at him as if I was about to pee my pants scared. It was the sound of a credit card again, but this time in the coat closet, not in the bathroom. He had heard it too. Fast forward a few hours when he goes to work, the sound of somebody slamming into my downstairs bathroom. Then, came the knocking around 5 p.m., not continuous, but semi-frequent. I've been extremely jumpy since all of this started happening. Edit, I know I posted this last night, but I did forget to mention a couple things about the house in question. I did answer a few, and said that this house is military housing, built in the 1950s during World War II. I've been digging into this online, and have talked to several of my neighbors about the people who were here before. They only stayed for 3 months. This is pretty unexplainable, because when you're in the military, they don't just send you to housing for a couple months. Even when you're on track to retiring. I'm going to look deeper and ask housing about the people that lived here before, and hopefully snag more information about this house. Another thing is, that this house was constructed so weirdly. My husband can actually see in the bathroom all the way besides where the trash can is. I've woken that poor man up so many times due to this noise. I might get the house blessed. I was supposed to do that beforehand, but completely forgot due to how fast we had to move in. Oops. I still remember what she looked like. I remember it all. It was 1998. I was 8 years old, and visiting my dad's childhood home. The town where he grew up was so small that you could drive through it all within 10 minutes. I still remember the smell of steak from the mom and pop-owned restaurant, the sweet cookies from the bakery, and even the cigarette smoke from the hair salon that my grandma used to run out of her basement from 15 years earlier. The house had to have been built in the early 1900s. The floors creaked, and there were vines all over the front of the house. My dad wanted to get rid of them, but my grandma liked the way they looked. Gave her privacy, she said. My brother slept in my dad's old room, which was primarily blue. I remember the Chicago sports team posters on the wall, edges torn and frayed from time, and the occasional water damage. Out of the 2 remaining rooms, I chose my grandmother's linen room, and my parents took the spare room downstairs. I remember the room being frilly. White frilly curtains matched the white lace comforter on the bed. Her sewing machine in the far right corner, in front of the window where she would watch my dad play in the backyard. My dad playfully whispered, "That's the haunted room." My dad was and still is a jokester. I remember scrunching my nose at him and put my suitcase on the floor in front of the bed. Little did I know, he wasn't kidding. That night I remember falling asleep easily. My biggest worry was that I would wake up in a puddle from my 4-year-old sister who shared the bed with me. I remember waking up in the middle of the night and looking around. Everything was dark except for the dim light that came from the bathroom down the hallway. The shadows from the sewing machines hit the wall and looked like box cars. I turned over to face the left side of the room, and that's when I saw her. At first, I thought it was my mom. A silhouette of a woman was standing in the doorway of the room. She was wearing a white dress. My mom didn't wear dresses, not even a nightgown. She had long fine hair, where my mom had the typical fluffy 90s do, cut at her shoulders. I quickly realized this wasn't my mom and panic set in. She was all white, skin, hair, dress. Everything. I remember she had a subtle glow about her. She was leaning on the doorframe, watching us sleep. Her head was tilted to the side, resting in her right hand, which was being supported by her elbow against the frame. I wasn't scared. She was terrifying, but comforting at the same time. It was like she was watching her own children sleeping, almost lovingly. I remember closing my eyes and praying she wouldn't come near me. She never did. The next morning, I went to the kitchen where my grandma was already awake, making us breakfast, waffles with several different syrups, and a huge bowl of assorted fruit. I didn't talk, or eat much for the majority of breakfast, and my dad definitely took notice. After a few minutes of coaxing, I finally told him what I saw. He immediately looked at my grandma and said, "Ha. I told you." My 2 boys fought something I can't explain. This happened about 25 years ago, but I still think about it on a regular basis. At the time, my 2 boys were around 6 and 8 years old, and this happened in a small town about 20 miles from Skinwalker Ranch in the Uinta Basin, Utah. Having grown up there, I had more than a few personal experiences that still give me chills, but this event was beyond anything I've experienced before, or even heard about. My 2 boys slept in a bunk bed, in a room just across the hall from my room. I was fast asleep, when I was suddenly woken up by the most intense and terrifying screams from my boys, screaming and crying out for me. I jumped out of bed, grabbed my pistol from the top of my dresser, and threw open my door. How do I say this? There in front of me, running out of my son's bedroom, was a 2 to 3 foot bright green creature. I have no idea what it was, but it looked at me as it exited their room, and shot down the hallway. It made a quick turn, and shot down my basement stairs. Keep in mind, all of the lights were off, but this thing stood out. Bright green in color, with black patches on its face and body. I only got a quick look at it, but what my kids would tell me terrified me. I ran into their room and flipped on the light. There they were, both of them standing in the middle of the room, holding their pillows. They were crying and screaming so hard, I couldn't understand what they were saying. My wife came in and began to calm them down, while I went looking for whatever just ran down to my basement. I searched everywhere, every corner, but found nothing. I went back upstairs, and asked my boys what happened. Without going into too much detail here, what they told me was horrifying. My youngest son told me he woke up, and noticed something green and hunched over, standing in the doorway, just looking at him. He wasn't sure what it was, so he sat up, and when he did, this thing started grinning at him, with, in his words, big teeth. This caused him to let out a scream, waking up my older son. While my younger son was telling me what he had seen, my older son spoke up and said it looked like Darth Maul, but green. If this sounds familiar, Darth Maul is a Star Wars character. Look him up and you will get an idea as to what this thing looked like. Imagine a short hunched-over Darth Maul. Now, I guess out of fear, my youngest son grabbed his pillow and started hitting this thing, which had now moved into the room, closer to them. He then tells me it grabbed hold of his pillow, and started growling at him. This caused my older son to start screaming as well, and within seconds he joined in with his pillow. He hit it over and over, until it suddenly let go of the first pillow, turned, and started back towards the bedroom door. I think it must have heard me open my door, because this is about when I saw it. Like I said, I didn't get the best look at it, but it was bright green with black patches, and it moved extremely fast. This event had a profound impact on my youngest son. From this point forward, he would only sleep with his head covered, which always worried me. I had to sleep in their room for the next week or two before they would go to sleep without me, and only with a lamp on in the room. Sound hard to believe? I get it. Had I not seen it myself, I would have thought they were imagining things. Seeing is absolutely believing. Was it a demon, a ghost, an alien, or something else entirely? I don't have a clue, but I know it was not human, and we never saw it again. Even today, they still drawn very similar pictures of what they saw. And while they don't like to talk about it with me, their descriptions have never changed. I had an experience with something very similar when I was about 8 years old, and I sometimes wonder if it was the same thing. What I can tell you is that this is a real, 100% true event, and the first time I've shared it with anyone outside of my family. I don't expect anyone to believe it, but I'm telling you it's all true.
Thank you for joining us on this spine-tingling journey into the depths of Reddit. If you've enjoyed these terrifying tales, don't forget to like and subscribe. Until the next time, members of the Midnyte Society, stay curious, stay brave, and may the mysteries of the night unfold in your favor.